Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode where we will be talking about editing. This one is much harder to show because the amount and type of editing that you will need will probably be very different to me or to anyone else. However, I'm going to go through my process so that you have some idea of the things to look out for and you can start to learn more about the areas that you might need to improve. Usually when I'm editing, the first thing I will do is check this little box that we've talked about before, where I've made editing notes. So again, to recap, these are things that as I'm writing, I don't want to stop to go back to check. So I just make a little note in this box that it's something I need to fix later. In this specific case, I wanted to make the main character, Skylar, more likable. That's a common problem I have. And I also knew that I needed to introduce her sidekick a bit better because I'd only given him a few lines in the original draft. First, I'll skim read the chapter and try to address whatever comments I've written in that box. In this example, I would see if there's a way for me to tone down the character's aggression or show them having a soft spot. The next thing I do is read the chapter just as if I was reading a book. I will correct obvious typos and will also fix the bits where I've left asterisks. I put those in when I'm writing if I've forgotten someone's name, the name of a place, or which leg was injured in the previous chapter. This edit is the time to fill in those blanks. I'm also familiarizing myself with the story. It's often been a long time between when I wrote the chapter and when I go back to edit it, so I need to remind myself what happened. I will usually go through the whole book and do this light edit first. Again, mostly reminding myself of the story. This will help me to see any big plot holes that I didn't realize when writing. Only when I'm sure that the story itself makes sense and that I've addressed all my comments to myself, do I go back to try and improve the writing style. Now be aware, this is something that can only really come with practice and experience, and it's something that is never perfect. Even after 30 books, I'm still finding ways to improve my writing. I've got an example chapter here with marked changes. You can download this from the link in the description. This isn't the absolute final version of the chapter, but it shows you some of the changes that I've made in trying to improve it. There are whole books on the topic of improving writing style. I'll list some of the things here, but this is very much just a way to get you pointed in the right direction. I strongly recommend that you read a bit about the topic, learn what passive voice means, and all those other terms. Learn how to cut unnecessary words from sentences to really make your work sing. One of the classic books on this topic is The Elements of Style by Strunk and White. Be aware that it's very dry and you'll probably want to read it over a few sessions or maybe even just use it as a reference. But it's really good to flick through just so that you can see and sort of start to think about the things that they talk about. Alright, let's go through my chapter and we'll talk about each change. So firstly, you can see I've removed the word down from this sentence. Having down doesn't add anything to that and instead distracts from the words glassy and victim, which are really the key messages I wanted to convey. This is the first chapter in the whole book. You really want it to drag the reader in. Next, you can see that I've added a sentence giving a bit more gruesome detail about the crime that's been committed. This is trying to paint the scene more clearly for the reader, because originally I felt like I didn't give them enough information. The can often be removed from sentences. Read your work. Does the sentence make sense if you remove the? In that case, it's probably a good idea to take it out. The key thing in writing is often efficiency. You want to say as much as possible in as few words as possible. This sentence, you can see I'm adding a sense other than sight. So it's the feel of water or blood soaking through her pants and bringing a coldness to her knees. I'm hoping that this will be able to give the reader a sense of actually feeling the setting, rather than just giving them sight signals to rely on. Just got a grammatical change here. And this sentence I've removed the word back. Much like up and down, you can often remove back from a sentence, and it will still mean the same thing. So again, we're looking for efficiency. The next sentence I just changed a few words around, trying to make it a bit more punchy and easier to read. The last thing you want is for a reader to be stumbling over what you've written. You want it to be smooth. The next change here, I've removed she found from the sentence. This chapter is written from the character Skylar's point of view, so any opinions that are expressed in it must be hers. So I don't have to say that she found flowers annoying. By saying that they are annoying and cloying, it means it's already her opinion. And that's sort of moving from a passive, omniscient point of view to actually speaking directly as your character. I found in the original draft that I hadn't given enough information about this sidekick, Remy. So I've just added a sentence here to give just a little something for the reader to pin his character to. Especially when you're talking about movement, you want to try in the most efficient but also the most descriptive way of showing it. For example, you probably want to avoid saying walk. Walk tells you nothing. Neither does step. Think about this sentence before and after the change. The victim's father pulled away from his distraught family, stepping closer to Skylar. Or, the victim's father pulled away from his distraught family, shuffling to Skylar. Which one gives the better image? A man stepping or a man shuffling? Shuffling gives an automatic picture of how this person is moving and about the emotions that he's feeling. And all we've done is change that one word. Alright, this next one was just a grammar fix. So again, I'm going through fixing typos as I see them. In general, you don't want to repeat the same descriptive words really close together, so in the same paragraph or within a few sentences of each other. You can see I had spatter in the previous sentence, and then spattered again here. You want to avoid that, so I just changed spattered to splashed. Give it some variety. Alright, this one again is about efficiency. Stutter to a stop, that's 4 words. Falter, 1 word, and yet they mean exactly the same thing. And they give the same image. This sentence I'm sliding in a little bit more information about the sidekick, Remy, and also giving some insight into how Skylar feels about him. So that's some character building there. Alright, making the sentence flow better, fixing a typo, more grammatical fixes. My grammar is actually terrible, so I usually have to go through quite a few times to fix those sort of errors. When using pronouns like they, the meaning can be unclear. What is this they referring to? Here I felt that it wasn't obvious I meant emotions when I said they, so I changed it. Emotions clouded judgment, rather than they. Now, as an Australian, I am used to using British English, pretty much like the rest of the world except for the United States. However, unlike a traditional publisher, I don't have the luxury of releasing different versions in different countries, so I tend to use US spelling, even though personally I would prefer to use British English. And this final change here, I wanted to remind the reader that the sidekick Remy is still there, and give a bit more context for Skylar's thoughts. So this chapter markup that I've shown is probably the second level of edits that I would do. It's after I've fixed major story elements and those little notes I've made to myself in that box in Scrivener. I would use this level of editing for all the chapters. So again, this is to make sure that I haven't missed any obvious plot holes. And it also fixes typos so that when I read it properly, the final time, it's much easier for me to read it as if I was a real reader. And that's my final round of editing. It's a final proofread. I usually proofread in a different format to what I wrote the book. So I usually write on my computer, and I'll often do the final proofread on my phone. You would be shocked at how much easier it is to spot typos and mistakes when you're reading it in a fresh format. When I'm reading on my phone, I usually just highlight the typos in the program that I'm reading it on, and then after I finish reading the whole book, I go to my computer and make those changes that I've highlighted. It can be a little bit time consuming, but I really find that removing myself from the computer and just being able to read the book like an actual reader lets me focus on the story and on ways of improving sentences. After this final proofread, it's time to send it off to an editor. And at this point, you're almost done. So good luck with your editing process. Don't be disheartened if you have to go through your book many times to really make it shine. It's much better to take the few extra months or extra time to make your book good, rather than wasting all that time you spent writing it and releasing something that's poorly edited. Let me know how you're going with your own writing journey. And remember, you can download this marked up version from the link below. Make sure to like and subscribe so that you can be notified of new videos. Until next time, good luck!